safer world is possible, and together we can and will make it happen. Thank you.
When you show up in community, you find that group that makes you feel like home, but oftentimes you also find yourself again.
Of course, the thought of anything else happening to him would have again been very damaging to brand Britain. I would put the Duke as probably one of the most famous and recognisable and well-known people in the world. Again, whether you support him or not, that's the reality for brand Britain. He's fifth in line to the throne. Do we really want anything to happen to him or his family, wherever they are in the world, but particularly when they're on United Kingdom soil? So it would seem to me that the discretion that could have been used to protect him has been withdrawn. And if you ask me who withdrew it, I can't tell you that for sure because I don't know. But it seems like an odd decision to have made.
Do you have any? I appreciate that you don't know, and you weren't sitting in the meetings on this in this particular case. But do you have any suspicions? Was the royal household leaning on? Prince Harry himself has said that he thinks the king, his father, could have pulled rank and made a decision and had enough influence over the committee that he could probably have swayed them either way. And you've an outsider looking in, when you know that his right-hand man, Sir Clive, is sitting on that committee, it feels like a relatively potentially relevant, likely scenario that Sir Clive could have said, yes, we believe, and my boss believes that his son should have security. But that's obviously not happened in this case. So who's leaning on who here, do you think? Who's influenced this decision?
This is pure speculation, so I was a detective of some standing, so I don't like speculating without evidence. So I don't have evidence for it, but the decision makers are all in that committee. So it will be somebody in the committee who decides. I was still a decision maker at the time that his protection was withdrawn. And as far as I'm aware, the commissioner of the day, Cressida Dick, me as the head of counter-terrorism, we were not asked specifically to withdraw his protection, which only leaves the government and the royal household. And the fact is this: if the Metropolitan Police had been asked to protect the Duke of Sussex by either the head of state, whether it was the Queen at the time, or the future king, we would protect that person. There is nothing whatsoever that would have led us to say, no, I'm sorry, sir or ma'am, we're not doing that. Mm. So the reality being is the decision, and so I've been asked many times, you know, if I think the reality is the Duke of Sussex and the head of state, his father, would probably need to come to some arrangement between them. And I think that reconciliation would be the key to this problem.
You were in charge of royal protection. How would you characterise the threats that Meghan and Harry received?
Well, disgusting and very real. I've talked publicly for many years about the threat of extreme right-wing terrorism in this country. I've often been misquoted as taking my eye off the ball, as though I think that was the biggest threat. I've never called it the biggest threat, but it was the fastest growing. You know, and my wonderful friend and counterpart at MI5 will tell you exactly the same thing, that when I started in CT in 2015... Counter-terrorism, it was about 6% of our total workload. Certainly when I left 15, 16 months ago, it was over 20% of our workload.
But there were many serious, credible threats against Meghan, were there, emanating from the far right in
Absolutely.
This country?
If you'd seen the stuff that was written and you were receiving it, the kind of rhetoric that's online, if you don't know what I know, you would feel under threat all of the time.
So you were convinced that there was a genuine threat to Meghan's life on on more than one occasion, on several occasions?
We had teams investigating it. People have been...
Welcome back to Sussexful, your trusted source for royal insights and updates. In this episode, former counter-terrorism chief Neil Basu sheds light on the ongoing security debate involving Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. He explains that the Metropolitan Police would have provided protection had it been formally requested by the head of state, suggesting the decision not to do so came from higher royal offices. According to reports, King Charles III's stance may have been influenced by tensions following Harry and Meghan's departure from royal duties, and even by feelings of jealousy tied to Harry's close bond with Queen Elizabeth II, who was said to have adored her grandson. This discussion raises major questions. Was the removal of security a matter of protocol or punishment? So share your thoughts in the comments. Do you think King Charles was right? Or was this a personal decision gone too far, the removal of the Sussexes' security? The decision to strip the Duke and Duchess of Sussex of their security protection appears to have been a personal one, stemming from the perceived jealousy and petty nature of King Charles III. As the former head of counter-terrorism at the Metropolitan Police noted, there would have been no legitimate reason to deny the Sussexes the same security afforded to other members of the royal family. However, it seems Charles was driven by his own distrust of the media attention and popularity that his son Harry commanded, perhaps even harboring resentment over the close relationship Harry shared with the late Queen Elizabeth II. The removal of the Sussexes' security was likely viewed as a form of punishment by the king for Harry's decision to step back from royal duties. Charles, in his role as the new sovereign, appears to have wielded his power to strip the couple of this crucial protection, disregarding the Queen's own directive that they should retain security when departing official royal life. This petty and vindictive act highlights the personal tensions and power dynamics at play within the royal family, with the new king seemingly unwilling to put the needs of his own son and grandchildren above his own insecurities and desire for control. So, according to Neil Basu, who used to head up counter-terrorism at the Metropolitan Police, there really wasn't anything that would have led to refusing protection for the Duke of Sussex if it had actually been requested. Basu is pretty firm in his belief that, if the police had been asked to provide security, either by the Queen, who was the head of state at the time, or even by the future king, they would have protected that person without a second thought. He goes on to suggest that the decision to remove the Sussexes' security protection was probably a punitive measure, coming straight from the office of King Charles III and his private secretary, rather than being influenced by Prince William. Basu even speculates that the king's distrust of all the media attention his son gets, and his lingering resentment over Harry's decision to step back from royal life, are really the driving factors behind this move to deny the Sussexes the security they need. It really does seem like Charles harbors this deep-seated distrust of the media attention that his son Harry attracts so easily, much like his own mother, the late Queen Elizabeth, did. While the Queen truly seemed to adore Harry and showered him with affection, Charles seems to look at the spotlight on his younger son with a whole lot of jealousy and resentment. The decision to take away the Sussexes' security protection likely comes from this personal discomfort, almost as if it's a punishment for Harry's so-called abdication of responsibility when he stepped away from official royal life. Charles, who has called himself a very petty person, just doesn't seem willing to give the same level of security and protection to his son and daughter-in-law, even though the Queen had clearly said they must be safeguarded. This power struggle within the royal family really highlights the complex dynamics at play, where personal grievances and old wounds can sometimes outweigh the very real need for safety and security. Basu's assessment honestly seems pretty plausible. Removing the Sussexes' security does look like it was a calculated punishment handed down straight from the king's own office. The uncertainty around William's involvement in this decision is actually pretty telling, since it suggests the motivations behind it probably came from higher up in the royal hierarchy. Given Charles's well-known distrust of the media attention his son gets, and the resentment he seems to carry over Harry's close relationship with the late Queen, it really does seem like the king himself may have been the main force behind this punitive action. The former counter-terrorism chief's belief that this was Charles's way of lashing out at Harry for abdicating his responsibility by stepping back from royal life just rings true. And, the fact that the Queen herself had specifically said the Sussexes needed to keep their security when they left only underscores how petty and vindictive this decision was, appearing to come straight from the current King's office. According to Neil Basu, who used to head up counter-terrorism at the Metropolitan Police, the removal of security protection for the Duke of Sussex was, likely a deliberate punishment coming directly from King Charles III's office. Basu says there was really nothing to justify denying the Sussexes the security that would have been given to any other member of the royal family, including, the future king. The suggestion here is that King Charles, who can be, as Basu puts it, a very petty person, harbors some resentment towards the media attention and popularity his son Harry tends to command. This jealousy and distrust of the younger royal may have led Charles to strip Harry and his family of their security detail as a spiteful act, even though there was a clear need for their protection. Basu also believes the decision didn't come from Prince William, whose opinions on the whole matter are probably given only polite acknowledgement by the king. The former police chief says Queen Elizabeth II had actually made it very clear that the Sussexes must have security, even after they stepped back from official royal duties. So the responsibility for denying them that protection now falls squarely on the shoulders of King Charles III, who, it seems, is punishing Harry for abdicating his responsibility by leaving the royal fold. Queen Elizabeth II had made it clear in her written instructions that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex must retain their security detail when they stepped back from royal duties. This directive from the former monarch implies that the current King Charles III is responsible for the removal of the Sussexes' security protection. Former counter-terrorism chief Neil Basu has stated that, had the Queen or the future king requested protection for the Sussexes, the police would have provided it without hesitation. However, it seems that King Charles, who is known to be a rather petty individual, has personally ordered the withdrawal of security as a form of punishment towards his son Harry for stepping away from royal life. The King's office and private secretary are believed to be the sources of this decision, with little input from Prince William, whose opinion on the matter is likely given only polite acknowledgement. The King's anger towards Harry for his departure, as well as potential jealousy over the close relationship Harry shared with their mother, the Queen, appear to be the driving factors behind this security removal. It seems clear that Charles, the new king, harbors a deep sense of jealousy towards his son Harry's relationship with the late Queen Elizabeth. According to Basu's assessment, this has not sat well with other members of the royal family either. The suggestion is that Charles, a self-described petty person, has taken steps to punish Harry for abdicating his royal responsibilities and choosing to step back from official life. This perceived slight, combined with Charles's apparent distrust of the media attention Harry commands so effortlessly, has led the king to strip the Sussexes of their security detail. Basu firmly believes this decision came directly from Charles's office, as a way to assert his authority and displeasure with Harry's choices. While William may have his own opinions on the matter, it seems Charles remains the driving force behind this controversial move, driven by a combination of jealousy and a desire to exert control over a situation that has clearly vexed him. Charles's pettiness and distrust of the media attention surrounding his son Harry seem to be the driving forces behind the removal of the Sussexes' security protection. Basu's characterization of the king as a very petty person is apt, as he appears to have taken this action out of personal resentment rather than any objective security concerns. The former counter-terrorism chief suggests that the security withdrawal was a punishment coming directly from the king's office, likely due to Charles's anger over Harry's decision to step back from royal duties. This pettiness on the king's part stands in stark contrast to the affection and support Queen Elizabeth had for her grandson, which may have also fueled Charles's jealousy and desire to lash out. Ultimately, it seems the king's own insecurities and penchant for pettiness, rather than any meaningful security assessment, lie at the heart of this controversial decision. The removal of the Sussexes' security detail appears to be a deliberate punishment orchestrated by King Charles himself. According to former counter-terrorism chief Neil Basu, there was no logical reason why the Sussexes would have been denied security protection, as it is customary for members of the royal family to receive such safeguards. However, it seems that the king's personal motivations and distrust of the media, attention surrounding his son Harry, have led to this decision. Charles is described as a very petty person who likely resents the ease with which Harry garners public interest, much like his mother, Queen Elizabeth. The security removal seems to stem directly from the king's office and his private secretary, with little to no input from Prince William. It is believed that Charles is deeply angered by Harry's decision to step back from royal duties, seeing it as an abdication of responsibility. This security stripping is therefore viewed as a punitive measure, the king's way of exacting revenge on his wayward son. Additionally, there are suggestions that Charles harbors jealousy over the close relationship Harry shared with their beloved mother, the Queen, who adored her youngest grandson. Ultimately, the root cause of the Sussexes losing their security detail appears to lie squarely with the petty personal motivations of the new king.